Right now, somewhere out there, someone is standing at the edge of a choice they have not told you about, and that person may be the one your heart keeps returning to. Stop for a second and stay with me, because this is going to feel personal. In the last few days, maybe even in the last few hours, they have been sitting alone with a thought they are scared to say out loud, not to friends, not to family, not even fully to themselves. And somehow, that thought leads back to you. Most people never see the exact moment this kind of person almost breaks. They only understand it later, after the silence, after the strange distance, after the energy changes in a way that makes no sense at first, and then suddenly explains everything. Think about that. Your mind may already be trying to protect you from what this means. That is not weakness. That is how the mind works. It hides painful truth until you are ready to face it. There is always a hidden side in people, a part that stays under the surface because it feels too raw, too risky, too honest to bring into the light. And right now, that hidden side in them is waking up. Something is rising inside them that they cannot fully control, cannot clearly explain, and do not know how to face. That is where it becomes dangerous. The human mind hates uncertainty. It would rather invent a false answer than sit in the pressure of not knowing. So what happens now? Your thoughts start racing. Is it doubt, fear, a secret? Are they hiding something from you? Notice how quickly the brain reaches for an answer. That same reflex is happening inside them too, and this time it is happening around what they feel about you. When a feeling becomes too strong, too unsettling, too hard to carry, the mind does not erase it. It pushes it down. It hides it deep where it can stay out of sight for a while. But hidden does not mean gone. It waits there. It builds pressure. Then it slips out in strange ways that seem disconnected from the real cause. A sudden cold tone, a need for distance that makes no sense, irritation over something small, a delayed reply, a strange silence. These things are often not random. They are signs. They are pressure leaking through the cracks. And what they may never say is that the thing they are trying to push down is not the lack of feeling for you. It may be the exact opposite. It may be how deeply you matter. Read that again in your own mind. The people who shake us the most are usually not the people we do not care about. They are the people who could undo us completely if we let them in too far. If they felt nothing, there would be nothing to hide, nothing to fight, nothing to bury. Distance would be easy, silence would be simple. But when someone feels something big, something life-changing, the mind begins building walls. Not because the feeling is false, but because it is powerful enough to threaten the old version of who they are. If you have noticed them pulling back, going quiet, acting like they are there and not there at the same time, you may not be looking at disinterest at all. You may be looking at emotion that has become too intense to manage openly. And most people miss this. They see withdrawal and assume the bond is dying, but many times the truth is harder and deeper than that. Sometimes what looks like absence is really intensity wearing a mask. Silence is never empty. It only looks empty from the outside. Inside, silence is full of motion, full of fear, full of questions, full of old pain trying to protect itself. When they go quiet, they may not be doing nothing. They may be doing everything inside their own mind. They may be replaying moments with you, testing meanings, running through possible outcomes, wondering whether telling the truth will heal them or break them open. And now we have to go deeper, because this is not only about them, it is also about you. The people who affect us most deeply often act like mirrors, not perfect mirrors, but emotional ones. They bring up the parts of us we have not healed, the fears we still carry, the needs we still hide. So if they are going through something that scares them, ask yourself something real. Is there a similar fear living inside you too? One you have been avoiding while watching them. This is where it gets uncomfortable, so do not click away mentally. Sometimes we become obsessed with another person's inner crisis because it protects us from looking at our own. It is easier to ask what they are hiding than to ask what we are hiding. It is easier to study their silence than to sit with our own fear of being left, of not being enough, of being loved and then losing it anyway. So ask yourself honestly, when you imagine them pulling away, what hits first in your chest? Is it concern for them or fear for yourself? Those are not the same thing, even if they wear the same face. And if it is fear for yourself, that does not make you selfish. It makes you human. But it does mean that an old wound may be waking up inside you at the very same time their old wound is waking up inside them. That is where everything starts to twist. Because once an old wound is active, it changes how you read the present. One unanswered message begins to feel like abandonment. One shorter call feels like rejection. One shift in tone becomes proof that something is ending. But often what your nervous system is reacting to is not only what is happening now, it is also what happened before. It is old pain casting a shadow over a new moment. The mind does this to protect you. It remembers danger and tries to see it early next time. Useful, yes, but also misleading. Because now you may be fighting two battles at once without knowing it. The one they are going through and the one your own past has pulled into the room. And here is where it gets even deeper. What if their crisis and your fear are not separate events at all? What if they are two expressions of the same hidden pattern playing out in two people at once? Sometimes when two people are strongly connected, what rises in one also wakes up in the other. Their panic touches your wound. Your fear touches theirs. It is not always cause and effect. Sometimes it is simply emotional resonance. Two inner worlds lighting up at the same time, because the bond has reached a depth that makes hiding impossible. Most people never look at it this way because doing so demands honest self-examination. No escape, no easy story, just truth. So let's stay with the truth. What are they really afraid of? Not the surface fear. Not, will this work? Not, what if this goes wrong? Under that, there is usually something much older. The fear of losing themselves inside a connection that feels bigger than their control. The fear of being seen too clearly. The fear that real closeness might cost them the identity they built to survive. Think about what it really means to be known by another person. Not liked, not admired. Not chosen from a safe distance, known, seen in the places you usually hide, seen in your contradictions, your scars, your shame, your softer side, your need, your mess. Being truly seen is one of the most vulnerable experiences a person can have, and they may be standing right at that edge with you now. That is why they seem torn. One part of them wants to move closer. Another part is screaming for them to run before they lose control, before they need too much, before they become too exposed. This is not a neat process. It does not move in a straight line. It moves in circles. One day they feel close, warm, almost open enough to tell you everything. The next day they feel far away, closed off, unreadable. And you are left replaying every word, looking for the moment it changed. But maybe there was no single moment. Maybe what you are seeing is the natural rhythm of a person moving back and forth between desire and fear. Coming closer, pulling away, reaching, retreating. This is how many people behave when they want something real but do not yet feel safe holding it. They are not always torn between wanting you and not wanting you. Sometimes they are torn between the old self that survived through defense and the newer self that is beginning to believe maybe, just maybe, they do not need those defenses with you anymore. And that belief can feel terrifying, because to live without those walls means taking down a system built over years, sometimes decades, brick by brick, memory by memory, pain by pain. Stay with me, because this is the part most people never understand until it is too late. What looks like hesitation is often survival. What looks like mixed signals is often a person trying to speak through fear. Some people did not grow up learning that honesty was safe. They learned the opposite. They learned that saying the true thing could get them hurt, mocked, ignored, or left behind. So now their feelings come out in fragments, half confessions, delayed messages, strange pauses, almost saying it, then saying something smaller instead. This does not always mean they are playing games. Sometimes it means they never learned how to be fully direct when the stakes are emotional. And this is not only in the mind, it is also in the body. When closeness with you grows, their body may not only feel warmth, it may feel alarm. Their heart may race, their chest may tighten, their thoughts may speed up. Old pathways can fire without permission. To a wounded nervous system, I might lose this person and I might disappear inside this person, can both feel like danger. So when closeness increases, fear increases too. And instead of naming the fear, the system turns it into behavior, distance, irritability, sudden confusion, overthinking, pulling back right when things start to feel real. Most people watch that happen and think the bond is falling apart, but sometimes the opposite is true. Sometimes the bond is becoming strong enough to touch the exact places in them that have never been healed. That does not make the connection weak. It makes it important. Nothing this intense gets activated over something meaningless. The mind does not go to war over what it does not care about. So if you are seeing conflict, if you are feeling the strain, do not rush to assume it means the feeling is gone. It may mean the feeling is finally too real to hide behind simple behavior. There is another hard truth here. People often repeat old emotional patterns without realizing it. If someone once learned that closeness leads to loss, betrayal, rejection, or losing themselves, then part of them may begin to recreate that same pattern again, even while wanting a different ending. Not on purpose, not to be cruel, not as some clear plan, but as instinct, as habit, as an old wound trying to test the present. They may create distance to see what you do with it. They may withdraw to find out whether you leave. They may go silent to see whether your care disappears when things become difficult. That does not make it healthy, but it does make it human. The painful truth is that people sometimes recreate the very pain they fear, hoping this time the ending will change. And that means a hidden test may be happening. Not a spoken test, not one with rules, but a quiet one. Can this connection survive discomfort? Can this person stay steady when I get scared? Can I be confusing and still not be abandoned? Can I pull away and still be met with something calm instead of chaos? This is why the next part matters so much. You cannot pass this kind of test by chasing harder. You cannot fix it with a perfect speech. You cannot calm a deep fear with pure logic. Hidden fear does not answer to logic. It answers to consistency, to patience, to emotional steadiness. If their deepest fear is abandonment, panic from you can confirm it. If their deepest fear is being swallowed by closeness, pressure from you can confirm that too. If their deepest fear is being too much, desperation from you can make that fear feel real. That is the paradox. The harder both people try to force safety, the easier it becomes to trigger the exact fear they wanted to avoid. So pause here and feel how heavy that is. Neither of you may be doing anything wrong in the simple way people usually mean it. Both of you may just be responding the way wounded systems respond when something finally matters enough to shake them. Their fear of loss may be pulling them toward the very distance they hate. Your fear of losing them may push you into reactions that make the distance worse. This is why the situation feels so painful and so confusing at the same time. It is not only about choices, it is about old patterns waking up inside real love, real hope, real attachment. So what do? Not fake confidence you do not feel. Not demand answers before they are ready to exist. Not force a clear ending on a process that is still unfolding under the surface. What you do is become the one thing their fear does not expect. Steady, present, calm, not cold, not passive, just grounded. You become someone whose care does not collapse under stress. Someone whose presence does not vanish the minute things get messy. That does not mean accepting bad behavior forever. It means understanding what moment you are actually in. Sometimes the deepest thing you can offer another person is not pressure, not rescue, not endless analysis, but a kind of emotional steadiness that does not feed their fear. Because what they are facing may have almost nothing to do with logic and almost everything to do with the oldest parts of them. The parts that still expect love to hurt. The parts that still expect honesty to cost too much. The parts that still believe getting close means losing control. If you understand that, even a little, you stop reading every silence as rejection and start seeing it as a sign that something bigger is happening under the surface. And now we reach the layer that ties all of this together. Some connections do not only awaken romantic feelings, they awaken everything unfinished in both people at once. That is why certain bonds feel different. They do not feel casual. They do not feel light. They do not feel easy to explain. They feel like recognition, like something inside you noticed them before your mind caught up. And that kind of bond often brings hidden material to the surface, not to destroy the relationship, but to expose what both people have been avoiding for years. Their crisis is not separate from your story. It never was. It is one thread in a pattern the two of you are living through together, whether you have words for it or not. What they are struggling with now may be the natural result of two inner worlds colliding with enough force to reveal what neither of you could see alone. Most people will hear that and think only about the other person. But this is about you too. It is about the part of you that recognized too much in this message. It is about the fear you called concern, the old pain you projected onto today's silence, the hidden test you did not realize you were taking as well. So stop pretending this is only their crisis. Stop acting as if your only role is to stand aside and wait while they figure everything out alone. And stop pretending your own history, your own wounds, your own patterns have nothing to do with what is happening. Because the biggest thing they may be facing right now is not a choice about you. It may be a confrontation with themselves, and you just happen to be the mirror close enough to make that confrontation impossible to avoid. That is not a punishment. It is not a curse. It may be one of the rarest chances two people can give each other. There is still one more layer, and if you understand this, everything changes. Sometimes when we meet a person who seems to match something deep inside us, it does not feel like meeting someone new. It feels like remembering someone we somehow already know. That feeling can be powerful, almost unreal. But often, what is happening is that we are seeing our own hidden hope, our own missing piece, our own image of wholeness reflected through another human being. That is why these bonds feel so overwhelming. You are not only relating to a real person, you are also relating to a symbol created by your own inner world. And eventually, every deep bond reaches a moment when that symbol begins to crack. The perfect image falls apart. The real human being underneath becomes impossible to ignore. Their flaws, their contradictions, their fear, their mood changes, their limits, their humanity. A lot of people think this moment means the magic is gone. But often it means the opposite. It means the fantasy is ending, and real love is finally getting a chance to begin. Real love is not loving someone as an idea. It is loving them after the illusion breaks, after the easy story collapses, after you see who they actually are and still choose honesty over comfort. That moment can terrify people, not because they do not want you, but because wanting the real you feels riskier than wanting the dream version of you. A dream cannot disappoint you. A real person can. A dream cannot leave scars. A real bond can change your life. So the crisis may not only be about closeness. It may be about whether they can handle loving something real instead of safe. And that is a far more serious question than most people ever admit out loud. Keep listening, because this is where the truth lands hardest. So the next time you feel that shift, that distance, that silence that makes your chest tighten, do not rush straight into panic, and do not run into your own old defenses either. Try to see it for what it may actually be. Not always the end, not always loss. Sometimes it is the beginning of the only kind of closeness that was ever going to be real in the first place, the kind that survives truth, the kind that survives fear, the kind that survives the breaking of illusions. Yes, this kind of bond was never going to be easy. It was never supposed to be light. It was always going to expose the places both of you still needed to face. But that does not make it false. If anything, that is what makes it matter. The truth almost no one says is this: a bond this deep does not only bring comfort, it brings confrontation. It asks both people to stop running, to stop hiding behind distance, behind old stories, behind automatic fear. It asks for maturity, for patience, for self-honesty, for the courage to stay present when everything in you wants to escape. And maybe that is the real message here. Not that they are going through something because the connection is broken, but because it has become real enough to reach the places neither of you can fake anymore. If this touched something in you, do not ignore it. Sit with it. Let it do its work. Because sometimes the biggest problem two people face is not whether they feel enough. It is whether they can stay open long enough to let that feeling become truth. And if you can understand that, really understand it, then the silence changes meaning. The distance changes meaning. Even the fear changes meaning. It stops looking like proof that something is ending and starts looking like proof that something real has finally begun.